Hello, welcome back to Coffee with Data, our podcast where we talk about data, life, mentorship, human skills, and mainly AI. Today we have a very special guest, Laura. Welcome to Coffee with Data. But
Thank you, Alini.
first, for us to start, before you present yourself, I have a very important question. That's the most important question in the entire podcast. So please be very, very wise when you are answering this one. How do you like your coffee?
Oh, my coffee. For me, a flat white is my favorite. It's nice, balanced, sweet enough, strong enough. That's for me perfect. I know this is tough competition. We have Brazilian who knows her coffee here, but for me, a flat white, fresh roast. Yeah.
Okay, that's important. That's the most important, as I told. And next time we will have a flat white coffee together, okay? Because
Sounds
now
good.
I know how do you like your coffee. Second question for you. And now we start to talk because you did answer correctly, You didn't answer like I don't like coffee. So that was a correct answer. Thank you.
We win.
Well, done. So we know each other since 2022. I know what you do in your life, but our audience, they don't know. So could you please present yourself a little bit and tell why you are here and why data is so important to you? What do you do in your life?
Okay, so yes, we met through a mentorship program called Women in Agronomy through a business called Yara. I currently work as a microbial formulation scientist in Germany. It's a huge development leap for me, and I think my journey kind of evolved um, when we had our mentorship session. I think I was in a challenging point in my life, and then that's when I really understood the power of data and reflecting on that. Um, for me, I've really had a career that I've been passionate about and built and navigated myself. I've had great support from the company in terms of sup sponsoring me for a degree and a master's, and previous to that, I had a degree. And for me, it just shows that anything is possible. I also believe in the power of the universe, but also constructively and having a strategy to live your life. So, with a bit of future oriented thinking, I've achieved happily everything that I would like to in my life. And I know that has happened by design, but also reflected on data at critical points in life. So for me, that's the importance of data and how I would like to share with you today on your podcast, um, especially the input and mentorship has for people, but also how you can actually use data to change your life.
Live by design, as we always spoke when we were in the mentorship. And I can see the very, very good results you have been living in your life because you live by design, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So let's continue. And the second most important question in our podcast today is what is AI for you?
Or for me, I mean, AI for me is like the Rain Man on unlimited access. He's read every book, he, she. It's a consensus of data that's we've already provided as humans in a national worldwide database. So for me, it's looking at that as a resource and how you can utilize it to optimize. Um, a bit like when the calculator first came out, rather than doing everything manually and summing everything up, it's like, how can we optimize what's already known in the world and direct it to what we need to know? And it doesn't replace thinking. Thinking is autonomous and human. And for me, like, my body is AI from since birth. It takes in everything, all my experiences, all my wins, all my failures, and for me, that's my, like, gut feeling. So for me, AI is a gut feeling of the world.
Interesting. And um, how does that gut feeling guides you in your daily life, or yeah, that AI?
So for me, using AI, um, obviously I use it in my life. Like, I think you have to trust your instinct, but when you're challenged, um, you need to reduce uncertainty, and you can use AI, like artificial intelligence, as a tool to acknowledge what has been done before, see any gaps, and where you can improve. So for me, a gut feeling is when you keep seeing a repetition of a pattern. And if that pattern keeps happening in your life, it's time to reflect, okay, what is the data showing me of why this pattern keeps repeating? And I think that accounts for everything in life, whether it's work, relationships, finances, health, wellness, the gym. I mean, I think we all start by tracking, for example, our health or like our footsteps, and it's like evaluating, okay, what is the data telling me? Maybe I need to do a few more steps today. Maybe I need to eat better today. So, but you don't have that data to reflect on and change unless you have the data points.
Okay, so let's go to the uncertainty of
Okay.
data. As you
So,
talk about the way AI is designing and the data is designing your life, but in your work, in your daily base work, I know that you use a lot of data to define boundaries and reduce uncertainty in your formulations.
yes.
We have been speaking a lot about it. You use a bunch of data every single day. And in agriculture, that data is not easy to get, as we know. Um, but all that uncertainty and boundaries that you add in your scientific work, when did you start applying that same mindset to your life?
That's a really great question, Leni. For me, it honestly started, as I mentioned, about patterns. And for me, the main activator is pain. So it's in identifying where stress keeps repeating itself. And in science, if an experiment fails, it's data. It's like, okay, this is not working. If a formulation is not working, let's change a parameter, change something. But I can't do that until I know, has this worked or not, over a repeated set of points. So I think it's quite common in life that we actually often ignore patterns. We say, okay, it's just a busy week. Next month will be different. I'll start consistently in the gym again. Um, or I want to earn more money, but I don't know what to do now. Like, we often know the answer, but it's reflecting on the data points that are very obvious in our face. And it's learning to recognize, okay, how do I attack this data? Because it's not, now this is a repeating pattern of stress. There's obviously a backlog of data that has got me to this point in time. So from that, at some point in analytical thinking, how can I apply this to my own behavior? What does that look like? And then instead of like looking at the patterns and making excuses, you stop personalizing everything and you just look at the data. So the more you lose emotion, and I think this is one of the best things I learned from the mentorship with you, Alini, in women agronomy, honestly. Um, just take the emotion out of it and just look objectively at the data. What is the data telling you? Why are you struggling? Interpret the signals that the data is clearly showing you.
Process your data.
Process your data, yes.
Every single day, process your own data, your emotional wounds, and change your life, right?
Exactly.
You can live by design, by
Exactly.
data.
Yeah.
So, you said that if something keeps creating pain, that's data for you to change. What's a real example of pain in your work or life you can choose that you used to ignore, and what changed when you listen or you look at the results of your data and your analytics and you really use it as a power to change?
Okay, so I love this question, and let's use friction as data. Let's use our stress signals as data. And I'm quite happy to share one example, probably of the time 2022. And I think that's when I reached out looking at resources that I had available to me. And mentorship is one of them. Often it can be quite scary. It's like, okay, what does this mean? What does this look like? And I think it's a really nice process where you can learn from each other and have a mentor set up to guide you. But one example is um, when you recognize something in you, friction, this gut feeling, this stress, and recognizing you want to change. And I think when I'd had that period for a few months and I recognized the pain was still there, nothing had changed. And I thought, why would it change? Like, why would anything change unless you change the system, unless you change a variable? So I reached out for the mentorship with yourself. You had an awesome profile. Remember that, as colourful and lively. I know. um, but I think early in my career, if something was unclear or going wrong, I just wanted to fix it myself, work harder, carry more. And then I realized, look, I need some help. I don't know how to get to this next level. So for me, it was definitely in my career. I saw the growth and I did everything I felt I was doing in my power to reach the next step, the next hurdle, and quietly assuming that I would handle everything. And then I thought, okay, I need to reflect with someone that's not in my world. They were in Brazil, for example,
The time I
at
was
that time.
indeed.
And I wanted to change the system. And I think for me, it was very clear that you have to challenge yourself and reflect, okay, is this an emotional problem or is this just objectively something that I'm not tackling? So for me, it was financially, I knew my earning potential was more. I knew I was bringing more to the table than, for example, like that was considered at my level in the corporate world. So I couldn't address that on my own. And I didn't know the steps to be able to do that. So mentorship was my first hurdle to, okay, look at this objectively and start looking at this as a real example. And from that, I wanted to read the data, and instead of like putting more on myself, I wanted to change the system and look objectively. And with a mentor, it's it's so valuable to have that oversight of someone that's not in your world and asks you just open-ended questions. Why is that? Have you tried this? And it's actually so revealing of why the data and the stress keeps happening, because it's identifying a decision ownership And at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own choices and own decisions. But it doesn't mean we can't also learn and have guidance and ask for help.
Yeah, and I remember you were doing a innovation, transformation, and all the stuffs. Mugs, Frank mugs.
Oh, yes, the pug.
Yeah, the fuck. But returning to the point, you were doing a system transformation because there was a need of recording all the goods in the plant you were working. It was a little bit messy, and you were the person who did the innovation. You were driving the innovation at that time. And even though you were not from IT, you started working with buddies from IT and so on. And you have learned so much and grow so much that time. And I was super impressed by the way you were leading, even though you were not the leader in that period. So that represents for me as well that leadership is not just about you having a title, but about your behavior, the way you make your life happen, you know. And I'm 100% sure that the position that you got today and you move countries internally, just like myself, it's because you have this self leadership inside of you, and you go and you just do it. You don't think about the others. You just think what is needed to be done here. Let's get there some people that can help, and let's do it together. That's the Laura that I know.
Exactly. And yeah, thank you. That's a great analogy. And yeah, sometimes it can be overextension, solving problems that aren't your responsibility. And that's a signal to also be cautious of. But for me, I could see a clear, I'm a very ambitious person. And part of that challenge is having a vision. And you have to be able to bring people along with you. And for me, when you have a clear outcome and it's not always clear to people, it's how you communicate that and how you can show them the improvements. So I fondly remember the example that you shared of the whole integration of a new system for tracking raw materials. And you can see when you do the numbers and it's like X amount of time saved, X amount of pounds, euros, dollars saved, it's like, okay, this is worth it. And sometimes you don't see that until you take a step back and realize, okay, there's a system failure here. It's not just a firefighting. Let's stop the firefighting. Let's stop the stressor. And look, you can always just take a paracetamol if you have a headache. But what's the real root cause? Why does this keep happening? So it's like I say with everything. And I think we've talked about it a lot, how in one area of your life, whether it be work, relationships, friendships, once you expect more at that level, naturally everything increases and you improve all your data sets because you have a higher standard. You have a better system, you have a better way of working, and naturally you have more time to be able to escalate. And that is all built on reflecting on the data that you have. And we as humans don't always realize how much data we have. Like our body tells us so much about ourselves. And how often do we actually listen? Like, okay, I should get more sleep. um, so these are constant early warning systems and signals for me to track your own behavior. And there's many ways to do that, but it's just reflecting on what you want to change and what are the main stresses in your life, um, and what are the signals of that.
And what are the main signals you track in your life, like energy, time, stress, overstanding, etc.? What are the main signals for you in your life that you track?
Um, I mean, for me, it's still a work in progress, I have to admit. I think when you naturally are a high achiever, um, you know this more than anyone, Alini. Um, it can be quite quite challenging to give your energy into everything you want to do. And sometimes you think, okay, this is just a small thing that I want to do for um, my work. This is another small task I want to take on personally. This is another small thing. Even now, like I've been doing patents, I do German course, building a website and look, all these incredible things, and you're developing in your relationships, your friendships, and sometimes when you recognize that these are all important factors, but you're doing them all at once with the same amount of energy, the
What,
energy,
what can I say about doing at least three things at the same time and huge ones?
you are the perfect example of this, honestly. And I think that's where I feel mentally sharp or I feel drained. And this is still a pattern I'm working on, honestly. But when the same frustration appears multiple times, it's a pattern. So for me, definitely my energy and my capacity to emotionally regulate, honestly, is my main indicator. When things start to bother me, because I'm quite a very calm, structured person. And when I realize, okay, this is annoying me, this is a signal to me, okay, we need to just slow down a bit, or just slow it down, or drop something and take more time over some things. um Also, you can have a time distortion because you think, oh, this is just going to take an hour, this is just going to take, and it takes the whole day. And then internally you can have like you can be quite harsh on yourself, I think, because it's like, okay, I want to do all these things, but realistically we're only human. And we get tired, we need to eat, we need to drink, and we need to get fresh air. And once I start realizing those poor basics, like even just going to the gym, eating healthy, if you're not getting your daylight, your exercise, your calmness in the day, I think that's for me when I realize these are the signals that are concerning, and that's a signal to me like, okay, we need to go back and prioritize yourself now, Laura. And I would honestly advocate that for anyone that is in corporate or high achiever. you know just focus on the basics. Have you eaten well? Have you drunk water today? Not just coffee. Ah, but have you had sunlight, daylight, your exercise, your vitamins? And because sometimes when we're high achieving and we're wanting to do lots of things and we have so many interests, these basics are the foundation, they're the building blocks that we need. So for me, it's just those signals again. I need to make sure they're in.
Yeah. A weak body can't sustain a strong mind.
Oh, that's fire. Yes.
Yes, every single day doing what we need to do to have a strong body and then a strong mindset will came with.
It builds resilience.
Yeah, exactly. And continuing in the corporate environments, what does the pressure to be excellent and agreeable look like in practice for women?
I mean, as women, we're so multifaceted as creatures. We're phenomenal, honestly. It blows my mind every day. And I love that women have the opportunities today. Obviously, it's depends on countries. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And I know in history, to not have opportunities that we have now, um, I can't imagine what that would look like, honestly. And I think sometimes as women, we reflect that you don't always have to do all of it. As women, we have so much opportunity in this world. And in one concepts in corporate environments. You could argue women are extremely competent and extremely accommodating, and you can often be expected to be both. And that combination can create a over functioning. So you're doing high level thinking work. Our left and right brains talk to each other far more than perhaps other sexes. So whilst we're absorbing coordination work, emotional work, reading the room, organizational work, um, we're so multifaceted as women, and we bring so much to the workforce. And I think sometimes it's remembering we can, but we don't always have to.
Yeah.
So another data point is, what do I actually where am I best adding value? What is my actual responsibility here and what isn't? And, whether that's going back to being helpful, sometimes that can actually dilute your real value. But boundary setting is so important as a woman. Like for me, that is a core learning, to set boundaries of, yes, I can do this, I want to do this. However, it doesn't mean I have to. And actually, it's better for everyone if I'm structured and I can say yes and I can say no in equal amounts.
Yeah. And that's a very tough point for us as women because we are so uh, accomplished. We just do it. And I know you not just as a mentee, but as a close friend. And I know just like myself, and we are mind likes on this one, uh, we always think we can do a little bit more.
Yeah.
That small step that will get you in the excellence level. But sometimes that small step that will bring you to the next level or in an excellent level is the step that will make you burn out.
I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Um, and that's where it's so easy to be over functioning. And like we discussed before, okay, the little steps, it's just this one more thing. It's just what this 1% better, 1% better. And you don't realize how that compounds over time in excellence and strategy, everything. However, also energetically and also, in your personal life or your work life, like, and that's always a constant challenge, I think, recognizing um, how can I maintain this excellence, not just be excellent and then burn out. So for me, that is far more important that I can maintain my domain in my home life, in my work life, in my friendship and my family, and my health, obviously, as a priority. So, yeah, I completely agree. It's just that one more thing. However, you can easily reach that tipping point.
Yeah. And that one more thing will sometime become default. And that default, are you able to maintain? So that's the question as well. And when we met in 2022, I was in that time, and you know very well, I was doing my master's. I was working 44 hours per week at Yara and traveling as well because I was a speaker for Yara's in Americas and doing all the process of my stomach surgery back there and moving countries because that was something as well, and all of it at the same time. But I was not burning out because I teach you this. Sometimes we will not have balance in life for a period of time, and that's fine. But we need to have a target date, an end date for those periods of time. And it's very important that when that target date reaches, we really end the things we need to end. Otherwise, we will always look at our projects, our numbers, our data, process it, and say, just one more month, just 2 more months, and then I will reach the results I want to. And those results, sometimes they are excellent results if you stay 2 more months. But you need agree with yourself before you start things when this will end, and do not put 2 more months of effort in that specific thing to got just 2-3% more in your quality.
Yeah, and not be able to sustain it. And I love that because that is so important. Because, like you say, it's not like everything stays balanced in life. Nature is a perfect example of that. You know, the trees shed and then they come back. You know, you can cut the leaves off a plant and they will come back 10 times stronger. We go through these hard times and stresses, and ultimately it's how we deal with them during that time and for a finite time. And I think you and I both know, because we've studied full full-time, part-time, part-time study with full-time work, and that is no easy feat. However, you see the outcome at the end, and it's a clearly structured, defined program that you follow, and there's transparency, and you also communicate that with other people, so it makes it achievable. And I think we often forget, as women, we can do everything ourselves. It doesn't mean we have to. And also recognizing, okay, can I ask for support here? How can I delegate? That was another important learning. I can do it all myself, but why would I? It's not really logical. How can I bring someone else along with the in the journey? How can I support them, train them? Because you don't realize when you are achieving and stepping up how you're actually a role model to other people, and they can actually and would often in many cases want to support you and have that influence with you. Um, so I think it's really important to see that as well, and just recognize how so many people want the best for you and how they can actually give you a helping hand up whilst also helping you at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And I remember you were in the end of your master's, and you were doing some applications internally at Yara as well.
Yes.
And there were some struggles in your personal life as well, all at the same time during your mentorship. I will say this, and if you want, I can cut after, but I don't think you will ask me for cutting. One of our our mentorship sessions, um, it was intended for us to talk about the 80-20 rule. So how do you put 20% of effort and get the 80% that you need? Because I saw you were struggling in doing this, and we started to follow some frameworks for you to better manage your time and all the stuffs that you needed to get done and that time. And you started our session crying because it was so overwhelmed, the amount of things. You were over functioning yourself.
Yes. No, I remember that well, and I think that's the one time where it was like the tipping point.
Yes. And I really saw that day. I told you, Laura, are you seeing the data you are bringing to me? I didn't told you, Laura, stop crying. I just told
No.
you, Laura, this is the data, this is the table. Just look at it, process it, analyze it, and change your life.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes you need that kick, honestly, because it feels so hard to make those changes, you know, when you're in somewhere and there's a sunk cost fallacy, and it's like, but I've come this far and I just have this way to go, but it's not reflected in your current reality. So do you? Do you really? Or what is it? Is it that next leap you have to do? And actually, that was the tipping point for me where I recognized the UK life and my position in the UK was no longer serving me. And it was a hard reality to be obviously in the position where you're distraught and frustrated. And again, that's a sense check that mentorship allows, because it's like an unbiased, logical response of someone that's quite objective and unbiased, but also wanting the best for you. And I think for me, that was very clear that my job is no longer to carry the system. My job is to design my life how I want it. And that means making radical changes. That means taking ownership. That means being accountable. That means stepping up, even when it's scary. You don't know the outcome. When you're in a position where it feels like you're trapped, or you're not, um, or you're stuck, or you do not see a way out, that is the best time of your life. You just don't know what's around the corner.
Exactly. And that's beautiful to hear from you. Because, because, just like the song,
Oh,
because I know you have some patents that you have created.
yes.
And now, as an extra question, I would like for you to tell a little bit of this side of your job, the science, and how it is for you, the feeling of being someone who is creating something in the world that does not exist.
It's honestly a phenomenal feeling. And it's so I work in product development. And when you come to the realization that you found something unexpected, something novel, something new that can really make an impact on the world, it's a phenomenal feeling, but it's also one of responsibility of how we can capture that point in time. And that is where intellectual property comes in. And by formally, it's very legal documentation, to submit. And it's again, the portfolio builds. And for me, formulation is quite an interesting science. It mixes physics, chemistry, biology. It's a real hub of everything mixing together. And it's so prominent in every industry. So I focus here on agriculture, but think about your shampoo, your beauty products. There's so much potential, but all of this essentially needs to deliver an active ingredient to do a particular function. And that is my job. And how I deliver that and how I identify the positives and the data that shows me this is new, it's so exciting. And that is why I love what I do. And I'm so lucky to be able to do this in a phenomenal R&D center. Just 2 weeks ago, we actually opened the formulation lab here in Hanninghoff, which is incredibly exciting to be able to have a lab that's developed just for formulation, and to be part of that is incredible. The patents are just come from hard work, lots of failure, honestly, repeated failure. But that's where you decide to give up or you keep going. Because when you give up, that's when you would have succeeded.
Exactly. That's phenomenal. I feel like I'm so lucky to have you in my life, not just as a friend, but also as a professional who inspire every single day, uh, because you really put your heart at work and not just doing formulations, but I can feel you really doing something because you love it. Even though you did not got the payment every single month, you would still do it as a hobby because you really love what you do, and that's beautiful to see.
Oh, thank you, Alini. Yeah, it's a real passion. As with you with AI, you know,
Yeah,
It's you really bring everyone on the journey, and I think when you're naturally passionate about what you do, your ikigai. There's a fantastic book, and it's finding what you're good at, what your purpose is, and how other people benefit from that, but also staying true to yourself. Mine is a very atypical career path, as I can imagine yours has been too. And and for me, that is a true testament to who I am, and I'm really, really proud of where I've got to and the challenges. And I also could not have done it without the friends, family, mentors. Um, Without that, we are not individuals as humans. We're a group.
Yeah, we are. And for someone listening now who feels stuck in the I have to be tough, I have to continue doing mindset, what are the three clarity moves you would recommend for starting next week?
I think for me, track the friction, identify where your main stresses are, focus on health first, of course. Just identify and notice what repeatedly drains your time or energy, and you'll find that patterns appear quickly. Second, separate responsibility from ownership. And with that, a lot of it can be tied into emotion. So finding out, am I responsible for solving this, or am I just reacting to this? And that is where you will learn to respond rather than react. And thirdly, reduce the noise in your life. Mostly when we're overwhelmed, it comes from unclear structures. So we really need to clarify the expectations, our decisions, our boundaries. And when the structure in your system and the life that you design improves, the pressure drops. So you don't need to become harder, more resilient. You need clearer systems.
Really good. So let me follow your three steps next week in one of the areas of my life, and then we catch up
That
later.
sounds fantastic.
And now we are going to the end of our episode, and I want to ask you a rapid fire.
Okay.
Short answers, please. A book that changed how you lead.
Austin Kleon, show your work.
One boundary you wish you had set earlier.
Saying no when it's uncomfortable.
A phrase you use when you feel yourself starting to overfunction.
Slow down, go for a walk. Prioritize health.
Yeah.
And I do a self check again. Did I drink water today? Did I see the sun or the outdoors today? Did I go for a walk? It's very critical. Did I speak to some people, especially in home office?
Okay. And what does clarity feels like in your body?
Like you're at the beach listening to the waves. You have a system in place, you're calm, connected to everything, and you know everything's in order, even if there's chaos.
Okay. One thing you want to women to stop normalize at work.
I think for me, this is quite a tough one. Responsibility and ownership and accountability. So, not playing the victim, just identify objectively the data again. Just take the emotion out of it. Just emotionally regulate and identify objectively what is happening here.
Really good one. And last but not least, that one is our internal joke. Yeah, you know what I want, right? As you are British, I want you to say bottle of water.
If you make a meme, bottle of water,
Again, please.
bottle of water.
So beautiful. I
This
love it.
is for the Portuguese speaking audience. Yeah.
Yes, of course. My Brazilian audience.
Uh,
Uh, and now I want to underline your core message. You don't need to become harder to survive corporate system. You need clarity.
yes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I think that's a perfect summary of today's podcast, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share my journey and how data has helped me, and of course the women in agronomy mentorship that enables us to meet. You know, the universe has wonderful ways of bringing the best people together.
Yes, I agree. And if people remember one thing from today, let it be this: friction isn't a personality flaw; it's information. It's data.
Perfect. Yes.
It's all about data and people. And where can people find you and your work? A little bit more about you.
Yeah, I do have a LinkedIn. It's Laura Hathaway. So I'm microbial formulation scientist on there. I do have Instagram as well, Laura_Hathaway. And I actually recently got engaged. So I hope that my surname will change in time, but keep updated for that.
Okay. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure to have this chat with you. I think our audience will have a lot of insights from your story and all that you have shared here. And if someone now is chasing if it's the right time to do something or to start a new project or change the way of living, I think the final message is just do it.
You will never be ready. You
Never.
just have to do it.
Yeah.
There is no perfection in life, but practice makes us near us.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is a coffee with data. And I hope we see you in the next episodes.